Hello and welcome to today's video, which is where we're going to be looking at house price growth across the UK and how you can spot that, and specifically focusing on Manchester house prices for the purpose of the case study that we're going to be looking at in today's video. So this is really to show you the tools and techniques that we use in our own business, Property Investments UK, to really map out and potentially spot up and coming areas, how to find property hotspots, what to look for, what to consider, and exactly how to do it. Because we get asked all the time how to, or to give commentary from different media outlets or from individual investors on why to consider maybe one particular area over and above another area, let's say, for property investment. It's also relevant if you're looking at it for your own home as well, trying to understand really where might have some good kind of capital growth or good value growth for the properties. So the same methods that we give to media and other individual investors, I'll show you exactly how to kind of do that today. And this really sparked off a question for 2018 is, what areas should investors consider for 2018 as kind of up and coming hotspots? Now, there's two ways to consider this and look for potential value, and that's looking at historic data. So where have areas done quite well recently and also historically, and then also looking at maybe future metrics. So where might be coming popular, where might be coming kind of the next hotspot. So Zoopla we'll use for trying to spot the fundamentals for future growth, and I'm going to use home.co.uk here to show you how we would look at fundamentals for historic growth. So if we put in the area here, so Manchester would be our example that we're looking at for house prices. Click on this tab, prices and rents, house prices, and then click find. What that'll do is bring you to a data set within home.co.uk that you can really look at anything you want. So you've got asking prices, selling times, time on the market, selling prices. All of these are really relevant to try and understand how an area might be performing. Selling prices is certainly the most accurate in terms of the physical and the actual prices achieved for properties over and above, let's say, asking prices. Downside for selling prices is they're usually a couple of months out of date or behind, because it takes a little bit of time for land registry to update that data, but it's definitely the most accurate indication from let's say a physical price achieved. So to show some kind of context to that, that graph here is showing up to October 2017, as you can kind of see there. Now if we were to click on asking prices for the same kind of era or time frame, that will give us actually January 2018. So you can see here that the data is a bit more recent for asking prices, but it doesn't quite tell us the actual sold price. It just tells us what prices are kind of being marketed at. So use whichever data set is best for yourself. So asking prices, if we were to just go down and show you exactly what's kind of included in each of these pages, and they're very similar in terms of the data, it's just what set of information it's looking at. Asking price here, you can see it's broken down into property types and then also the level of change over here on the right hand side, which is quite helpful because it shows you, for example, in this indication, flats have had the most increase in asking price values for the Manchester area over that time frame. Now this data set is only as good as kind of the information it's pulling it from. So flats, for example, there's been quite an influx of new build apartments in the Manchester area, and that can really impact the asking price of properties. So it's important to take that into consideration if you're looking at a new area. And for example, if you're looking at prices of property and Manchester house prices, you want to take into account what the current, I suppose, lay of the land looks like, what new build developments have been happening, and if those new housing estates could really impact the property prices and the change really ratios that you're seeing here. Then if we scroll down, you've got information split up by median, also asking prices based on an average of bedrooms, and some further data here based on number of properties for sale. So all of this is great. All of this gives you some extra context to an area, and it will show you obviously the data how you wish. So you can take information like this, properties advertised for sale in an area, and take some consideration as to maybe how active or buoyant a market might be, how much or what the lack of supply might be, and how that could be impacting prices. But unless you're looking at lots and lots of data, you're very experienced in looking at that data and understanding how that can maybe impact the actual sale prices and the actual kind of demand and supply for any given location. It's really hard to understand I suppose, area to area, which is potentially going to be the next property hotspot. So which is going to be the next big kind of house price growth across the UK, which is going to be the next area that's really going to hopefully fly in terms of kind of regeneration or prices. Now, these data sets are great to give you historic context, but doesn't quite give you that simple, let's say, method of understanding where the next hotspot might be, as we mentioned. You can certainly look at here the sold prices that we just kind of clicked on, and that'll give you some better context, as we said, for a given area. So you can type in, let's say, Manchester, if you were looking at Tameside, Salford, Trafford, other locations within and around the Manchester or Greater Manchester area, and then simply kind of compare like for like, open a couple of tabs, compare the screens next to each other and say, maybe if you're looking to buy a semi-detached property or a flat, what that kind of house price growth has maybe looked like. So you can see here apartments, flats, pretty much flatline in terms of pricing over that time frame. However, detached houses and semi-detached houses have gone quite well. Terraced houses have also kind of reduced slightly over that time frame. It's also important to understand the area that you're looking at, because postcode to postcode, even within Manchester, Manchester being a large area, you will have certain nuances where some locations have grown and others locations have stayed maybe static or maybe even decreased. So understanding the context of the area that you're looking at is very important. But if you are wanting to look at historic data, if you are wanting to dig into lots of different kind of information, house price reports, as you can see here, gives you local locations as well. You can do that, and that'll be great for understanding what the local prices are looking like. Now, if you want a very quick way though of understanding how the next kind of hotspot can be found, this is how we do it for Property kind of Investments UK, for ourselves and for clients that we're working with as well. So let's just type in a given area, so Manchester, for example. And if we click on search, and that'll bring us all of the, I suppose, the search options of what properties are currently available in that area. So we're going to be looking at where is going to be the next kind of place for us to invest in 2018 in this particular case study. You don't really want to be playing around too much with the filter set, because you're not interested at this stage on the actual individual properties. We're more interested in the map. And that's because we can overlay on a physical map some filters that will give us an indication of kind of prices on a heat map. So if we click heat there, you can see how that map changes from the original map listing to kind of a color coordinated map. I'm just going to put price here up to maximum. And then the same for minimum. Really, so it strips out all of these actual pins of properties and just gives us kind of the map overlay, because it's more the color coordination that we're interested on this occasion. And then if you scroll down, the closer you kind of scroll in, the better the detail is going to be for the heat map. I'm just going to scroll on the screen a little bit closer as well. Hopefully that shows it a bit better. Let's bring that up a bit closer as well. Okay, perfect. So now we can see here a map of Manchester. And up in the top left hand side here, we've got some context, as in dark red is going to be high prices, dark blue is going to be low prices. And then we can start to understand where the different hotspots and heat spots are of property prices currently. So these are existing properties that are on the market for sale and how they look from a price point of view. Now, there's lots of things that will change a property market. So in Manchester, for example, if you were to consider, I suppose, the traditional things that might move the needle on supply and also effectively demand on properties, which can certainly push up prices. Things like access to transport links is very important. Now, Manchester's had the Metrolink for a number of years, and that's extending all the time into different parts of Manchester. But properties and areas close by to the Metrolinks with good transport links certainly are showing signs of real good growth. So Old Trafford, for example, very close to Cornbrook Metrolink station. It's got its own Metrolink station within kind of Old Trafford near the stadium that gives easy access to all different parts of kind of Manchester. So whether you're going to Media City, whether you're going to City Centre Manchester, whether you're going to other parts of Manchester to work or see friends, you've got easy kind of transport links to do that. Secondary to that, schools. Trafford, the area that Old Trafford is actually in, and from a council perspective, is renowned for having very good schools. So that's another indication that could help house price growth. But a very simple way of looking at it is just considering where the overspill locations might be from already affluent locations. So Manchester, for example, you've got Chorlton here. A little bit further south, you've got Withington, and across here to the east, you've got Didsbury and the Heatons. You can see here these are quite high value locations in dark red. But local locations nearby, so Burnage, for example, Old Trafford, Stretford, they still have signs and indications of slightly more affordable areas. So for individuals, so homeowners, tenants, investors that want to kind of live and buy and invest in those locations, if you can't currently afford these higher value affluent areas, it's very easy to see why people might kind of move to these nearby locations. So when we're looking for the next kind of property hotspot, we would always look for these kind of lighter blue moving into the sort of orangey sort of spots. That typically is a good combination of yields and also a good combination of potential house price growth. We would tend to steer clear from some of the darker blue locations, and they might indicate sort of quite tough areas for historic kind of house price growth, and then also future house price growth with that in mind. So very simply looking at that, the key indications of what we would look at for 2018 is if we were just looking at the Manchester area, and you can certainly go further afield and look at kind of Greater Manchester. So Cheadle-Hulme, for example, and Stockport showed some good signs. If we were to scroll down a little bit further here, Broadheath is showing a great area for potential house price growth. You can see here these very high value locations close by, so it's easy to see how people could spill over and look to purchase and live in these sort of locations instead. But certainly Old Trafford, Burnage, further north towards sort of Prestwich, kind of Monton areas as well, are very good. And if we were to scroll out or look a bit further kind of north, Bury is looking quite a good location currently. Hopefully that helps. Hopefully that gives some indication of how we look at house price growth, how we look at kind of where the changing, I suppose, price point of Manchester house prices is looking like for 2018, what might be good to kind of consider new locations for us to invest in, and also for clients. Any questions, as always, don't hesitate to ask, and look forward to catching up with you soon. All the best. Take care.